Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to a mental break. Thanks for tuning in. This is Deanna. Thank you to new subscribers. Thank you for all the comments. I will be going through comments and responding to them by the end of the week. For those of you who don't know who I am and you're clicking this video for the first time, my name is Deanna. I'm a psychiatric nurse. I've been one for over 20 years. I've worked with children all the way up to the elderly. I worked on high profile cases and cases that have been in the news. I'd work with the top psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, and psych techs in my town. Now, having said that, and you see the thumbnail, let's jump right into it. Now, what I do here on a mental break is I take viral stories or cases that are in the news and we look at it and break it down and hold people accountable, see what makes sense, see if maybe somebody has a mental illness. All right, let's talk about Deion Sanders and Karrueche. So, what's been going on is that Deion Sanders, for those of you who don't know who he is a former NFL player. He has been coaching college football as of lately. He started off in Jacksonville and then he went over to Colorado. And recently he was in the news for having his bladder removed. Now, having a bladder removed is very serious. And for him to have his bladder removed, he had to have had other health issues that led up to that. So I'm sure that there were other treatments that they tried to do, different things before they got to that step. So that's a very serious surgery. And for those of us who know who Deion Sanders is, he has been looking, a little under the weather. He hasn't been looking that great, for compared to how he used to look, a few years ago. And it's not just about age. You could just see that there, are some issues going on there. Now, the reason why we're talking about him is that recently, it's come out that Karrueche was, crying by, at the hospital while he was getting the surgery. And, Deion Sanders underwent the surgery. So recently, in the last few days, he was speaking with someone. It looked like it might have been some sort of FaceTime or, I don't know if it was Zoom. I don't know what it was, but he was asked about Karrueche and ask because she was there, and he got right off the call. He was like, no comment, no comment, or bad connection, bad connection, and hung up the call. So for those of you who don't know, Deion Sanders was dating Tracey Edmonds, which is Babyface's ex-wife, and they dated for a while, and they recently broke up. I believe it was last year. I don't know exactly when, but I believe it was last year. Now, Karrueche and Tracey Edmonds know each other. Apparently, now according to Claudia Jordan, she messy she was on the Housewives of Atlanta. Now, Claudia Jordan got on somebody podcast, child. Now I don't know if it was hers because she's trying to build her podcast, or if it was Carlos King's. I can't remember whose it was, but she's the one that came out and said that allegedly, Tracey Edmonds had given Karrueche, some work in the past. They worked on some projects and that they knew each other. They weren't exactly friends per se, but they have each other's phone numbers. Let's just say that. And Claudia thought that it was strange that Karrueche would not mention anything to Tracey Edmonds about it since, she was recently dating him and they know each other, just on a girl code type of thing. So, Claudia Jordan, came out and said that. So the reason why I'm doing this video is that, again, we have another woman who thinks more than likely that she's better than all the women before her. Because I'm still trying to figure out why is she dating him. Now let's set aside his history of womenizing, cheating, like all the things that he's done in the past, how he's treated women in the past. Let's put all that aside and let's look at what's here and now. Deion Sanders has been sick for a while now. It's not something new. Karrueche I believe, is 34 years old. I think she's between 34 and 37, I believe, somewhere in there. And Deion Sanders is 57. And again, he's been dealing with illness. He's had a couple toes cut off. He's had blood clot issues. He's had other issues. So I'm trying to figure out why a woman of her age would want to date a man that is 20 years her senior that is having health ailments. So of course we know that his, wallet has a lot to do with it, because again, why would she date him? So this is why I'm trying to figure out, why. We know it's money. But then we also have to look at, you don't know his history. Like, you actually thought that you were going to be better than the other women. Like, you have more than what they have just because you're younger than the other women that he's been with. You thought that you were special. Well, he just showed you that you're not, because when he was asked about you, he immediately got off the phone. He could have easily said, Karrueche's a great friend of the family. She's been of great moral support to me. She's a very close friend. He said none of that. He got right off the call. He didn't want to acknowledge you in any way. So again, disrespect. Now, as we can see, Karrueche doesn't have a good track record. You were dating Chris Brown, and you went on Oprah saying that he assaulted you allegedly. He was stalking you allegedly, because I don't know if it was police reports. Like, I don't know that whole thing. I think there was police reports, but I don't know if it was actually proven in a court of law. I don't know. So I'm going to have to say allegedly. But then I believe it was last month you were seen with him. I believe it was at one of his concerts or something like that. So if you, were in fear of your life, or you were, very fearful of Chris, why were you around him? Okay, so we're back to that again. So now going back to Deion Sanders, why would you date a man that is pushing 60, that has health ailments, and what is the attraction? Because when you met him, he had health ailments. This man's been sick for a while. It just didn't start last week. It didn't start 2 weeks ago. I'm a nurse. I know. I know disease process. And I know a lot of things that the things that are being said about Deion Sanders' health, uh, I know it accumulates over time. It's not something that just happened 2 months ago or 3 months ago. This has been going on for a while. So why would you want to date him? Because again, he's not going to treat you no better. And we already know that it's basically because the man has some sort of status and money. And I want this to be a cautionary tale to these young women out here who look to these women on social media, and these celebrity women, the Aries, the Young Miamis, the Karrueches, the Amber Roses, these women, you look at them and you want to be like them. Because I think no, I didn't do it on this channel, on Tatiana Chanel. I did a video on her. You girls, y'all look at this, because Tatiana Chanel was had a DV case a few months ago with her rapper boyfriend, whatever he is, Boston Richie, whatever. Um, she's going through that, but yet all she cares about again is the lifestyle, how she looks, what bag she has, how much money she has, how this looks. So that's why I said, you young girls that are looking at this stuff playing out on social media, what you're not understanding is that looking, these women are not being valued. They're not being treated like they matter. They get on these social media apps and on these podcasts and in these interviews, and they act like they live this great life, and they're just jet setting, and men are just pouring money on them, and men just love them. And as we can see, that's not the case, because the women I just named, tell me any one of the women I just named has a loving man beside them that puts them on a pedestal and treats them like a princess or a queen. I still have yet to see that. I don't see that with Tatiana Chanel. I don't see it with Amber Rose. I don't see it with Karrueche. I don't see it with Young Miami. I don't see it with Ari. I don't see it with Jada Waiter. I don't see it with Des Dior. I don't see it with none of these girls that y'all sitting up here and y'all idolize so much. I haven't seen it yet. All you see with these young women is being going from man to man to man, pretending like their life is so great, wearing their clothes and their bags and smiling for the camera. But yet, trust and believe, when the lights go out and they going to sleep at night, they crying themselves to sleep. Okay? So I say this to say, for you young women, stop looking at these women on social media and thinking this is how life is supposed to be as a young woman. You know, coming up in this society, the best advice that I can give you women is to get therapy for childhood traumas. If you've had any assaults in your history, go to therapy. If you had trauma in your history, go to therapy. If you grew up without a dad, go to therapy. And once you're finished, while you're getting therapy, educate yourself, create a business, get certified in something, get a degree, do something where you can live the life you want to live without depending on a man. Because when you live your life like that, dating a man hits different. It hits different because then you don't need him. You don't have to put up with him disrespecting you, him putting you out like what's her name? Danny Lay. Now I'm not a big Danny Lay fan because I didn't like that whole yellow bonus, what he want, all that mess. But we could see what happened to her. She thought that the baby was going to treat her better because she was lighter than his other baby mama, Mimi. And you see how that turned out. So what happens is when you allow yourself to be at the mercy of these men like this is what happens. So I'm saying this to say, you young women out here now, learn to take care of yourself before you start attaching yourself to these men with money, status, and power. Because all they're going to do is use you, mistreat you in most cases. I'm not saying in all cases, in most cases, because a lot of these men, when they didn't have money and they were young and growing up, the girls didn't like them. They wasn't that dude. They was poor, and now they want to grow up and mistreat every beautiful woman they come across just so they can, because that's their get back. It's men out here that do that. They do that. They get money, power, and status, and they like to get beautiful women and tear them down, and they enjoy it. They enjoy it. So, you young women don't have to believe me. You can keep listening to these men out here if you want to. But if you did listen to my video, and one day you're going to say to yourself, I should have listened to that woman that did that video 5 years ago, because you're going to remember I said this. So, like I said, if you're going to be out here with men like this, with money, power, and status, and it don't have to be a celebrity man. You heard me say money, power, and status. They don't have to have all three. They can have one, two, or all three of them. But if you're going to deal with these men, then you need to have your stuff together. So that way, when they start acting simple, you walk away, because you can walk away. You can support yourself. You can buy your own things, and you don't have to depend on none of these men. So I'm going to end this video. I just got on here to say this because Karrueche still hasn't learned, and I don't know what else that can happen here. And in many of these cases, these women, especially people like in Young Miami's case, Karrueche, when once you get to a certain celebrity status, they don't want to get a regular job. They don't want to do that because that they're too vain for that. They don't want to do that. They believe they're too famous, so they don't want to do that. So they rather attach themselves to men, and they rather suffer in silence and be mistreated before they actually say, you know what, let me go get a corporate job, or let me go, get this job, or let me, go back to school or whatever. That's what they rather do. So if that's what y'all rather do, and you want to spend your younger years miserable and going through all kinds of stuff, then it's nothing I can tell you. That's your life. Live it how you want to live it. I'm trying to save some of y'all to even get into that point, because it's not going to stop. It's just rinsing and repeating, generation after generation after generation. It's just a rinse and repeat. So I'm going to get off of here. You guys take care, and I'll be back with another video.